Hey guys, what's going on? Abby here. Welcome back to another Outriders video. In today's video, we're actually going to be taking a look at some tips and tricks that are going to help you guys when you get started playing Outriders on April 1st. These are gameplay tips, settings tips, specific class tips that are going to improve your quality of life in the game and help you play and understand the game that much easier. So stay tuned because we got over 20 tips for you guys. The first set of tips here are going to focus on your game settings. First up, if you open your game menu, you can actually navigate to the in-game guides. There are a ton of tips located in this guide itself for you to read through if you get stuck on anything. One of the really cool sections in here is under enemies, and if you go to status effects, you can actually read all about all the different status effects, what they do, how much damage they're doing, how long, all of that kind of stuff. So definitely check that out. All right. Next up, we're going to be talking about how to reset your story point. You're going to want to make sure you're in the lobby, and then you can click right here. It says select story point. Right now we're in Rift Town and we have access to the prologue and Rift Town. And basically you can choose any of these checkpoints throughout that story mission. So we could go back and confront the Altered at the tower. We set this story point and then we go right in at that point. So this is a great way to go back to specific story points or specific bosses if you want to rerun them and farm for some gear. All right, the next tip I'm going to show you guys is how to turn your stat screen on in game. So we all know you can get to your inventory screen this way. You can check out your firepower, anomaly power, health, and armor. However, you can also check out your stats if you look down here in the bottom left, and that's going to pull up a player stat screen so you can look at, and you can actually move around and change equipment. But say, for example, we wanted to switch to a different weapon. You can see my weapon damage bonus changing when I switch to the revolver. So it's a really nice way to see your overall stats and change them around and just check and compare. All right, next we're going to be going back to the options menu here. I'm going to show you guys how to set auto loot minimum rarity setting. This is one that you're going to want to set at the very beginning when you log on. So when the game launches, make sure you check this setting out and set it to where you want it. So we can go all the way down to white, aka common rarity items. This means that anything common rarity or up, which is everything, is going to be auto looted whenever you travel to a different area, whenever you die, as long as those items are on the ground. And you can also force an auto loot by hitting down on the D-pad if you're on controller, or H on the keyboard if you're on PC. So I would recommend setting this down to the lowest possible when you first start out the game, and then as you start to get better and better gear and you build up your resources a lot, you can start to move this up to higher rarities. And while we're here, I also want to make the point about auto looting. If your inventory is completely full, so say you have 30 weapons in your inventory and you try to auto loot additional weapons that are on the ground, they're going to go automatically to your stash. Your stash is shared among all of your characters, and you can use it to pass your gear back and forth between characters. It acts as sort of a lost loot machine in a way, so you can go back and see if anything was auto looted. However, if your inventory is full and your stash is full, then those items are going to actually dismantle automatically and you will get the resources for that. So whether it is leather or iron or any other materials. Also in the display tab here, if you didn't know this already, they added a motion blur toggle, so you can go ahead and toggle that off if it bothers you. So next, let's talk about how to abandon a quest if you need to. So say a quest bugs out, you don't really want it on your quest list, you want to get rid of it. You can always go to the quest map up here and then go to the quest that you want to get rid of. And then all you have to do is hit the button that it says for abandon there, and then it's going to ask you if you want to abandon the quest. All right, next up, let's talk about mods. These guys right here, you'll see these gear mods. The armor mods are going to be specific to your character, and then the weapon mods are going to be generalized across all characters. However, unlocking mods is character specific. So you need to unlock those mods on each character in order to utilize them in crafting later on in the game. However, you could put a mod on a certain weapon on one character, use the stash to transfer it over to another character, and then dismantle it on that character if you wanted to have the same mod on two different characters. But what I wanted to show you guys is that you can see if you have a mod, a weapon mod or an armor mod in your mod library by looking for that square icon on the right of the mod, because that's going to tell you if you've dismantled it already or not on that particular character. So we can see on this epic weapon, I do not have Perpetuum Mobile unlocked, but I do have Stiffening unlocked. So this will help you quickly see at a glance which mods you have and have not unlocked. Furthermore, if you're going in here and you're going to be selecting a few items to dismantle, and if you want to see what mods you're going to acquire from dismantling at bulk, you can go ahead and click on as much gear as you want to dismantle, and then go down here to the dismantle marked. It'll tell you how many items you're dismantling. Here we see 5, and then it's also going to show you the materials that you're going to obtain from dismantling the marked gear. And you can see at the bottom, it shows the mods that we would be able to add to our collection. In addition to hovering over the dismantle button, you can also hover over pretty much everything in this game to get a good explanation of what it is, including your firepower, anomaly power, health, armor. You can also turn on that stat screen we were talking about earlier and hover over any of the stats and see a little description about them. And you can also hover over shards as well. If you guys didn't know, these are used in crafting to raise specific attributes of equipment. So attributes like armor piercing, for example, on this pistol, or crit damage, status power, and long range damage on this rifle. So shards are going to be really important in endgame. This is what is going to allow you to min-max your gear completely. So hovering over this will show you how many shards you have and which type of shards, because to increase a max health attribute, you need to have max health shards. So you will need to dismantle gear with these attributes on them in order to get shards to then improve the attributes of the other pieces of gear that you want to improve. All right, so those are kind of the settings type tips that I had for you guys so that you can go into the game knowing what's what and knowing what to do. Next up, we are going on to general gameplay. So these are kind of some gameplay tips that I have for you guys and things that you should think about when you start playing Outriders. First, the mantra that cover is for cowards. Now, I'm not saying you're a coward if you have to get behind cover when your health is low. However, in Outriders, you heal from being aggressive. So the more aggressive you are and the more kills you're getting, the more damage you're doing, the more health and shield you're going to be receiving. So make sure to get out there and do damage. Now, if you are like me and you're a Technomancer, your skills can do damage for you. So you could be kind of behind cover, but there's no reason to be running from cover to cover and doing little cover maneuvers to get up to the enemies. It might make more sense just to use different pieces of cover to kind of block lines of sight instead of actually getting into cover. However, just keep in mind that you're not going to heal unless you do some damage and get some kills. So being aggressive is better. All right, next tip. I spoke about this in my previous tips video, but I'm going to say it again. You always want to make sure you are utilizing your melee. Each class has a specific element melee. You're going to have a regular standing melee where you just punch out in front of you like this. And then we also have a running melee like this. It's more of a ground slam. It does an AoE. I'm on Technomancer, so I do a cryo AoE, which is super helpful in freezing enemies in their tracks. There is a bit of a cooldown on it, so just keep that in mind, but it is really helpful, especially for Pyromancer who needs to have marked targets die in order to get health. The melee is super important, fun, and useful in Outriders. And speaking of melee, both forms of your melee are also interrupts. So if you see an elite charging up an anomaly attack and you don't have a skill that can interrupt it, you can also melee them to interrupt the skill. If you want to know which skills are interrupts, all you have to do is look at your skill screen and then look for this keyword interrupt, and that'll tell you. And then up next, let's talk about different effects that you can get as a player that you can receive and how to get rid of those status effects on players. So for the bleed status, you're going to want to stand still. You're actually going to take more damage if you move around while you have that bleed effect on you. So you need to stand still or try to, at least for the duration of the effect. When you're affected by the burn status, you can remove the status by rolling, so just do a couple dodge rolls, you'll be good to go. The toxic effect is actually removed when you receive healing, and it will clear that toxic status. And then for Ash and Freeze, you need to break through those crowd control effects by using your melee attack. These ones I find the most annoying because you are unable to use your abilities when you have crowd control effects on you. So just make sure you are meleeing as soon as possible to break free of those. The next tip is that when you're in co-op, once per combat, so per like combat area, each player can use their self-revive once when you're in that down but not out state. After that, your co-op teammates will need to revive you to get you back up. All right, the next tip is that when you're aiming down sights, you can actually toggle which shoulder your weapon is sitting on if you want to switch shoulders while you're standing, or you can actually do this in cover as well. It's going to be left stick click on your controller or middle mouse button on keyboard. The next tip is that using your ammo rounds is actually going to reload your weapon for you. So if you're down to the bottom of your magazine and then you hit that skill button, it is going to automatically put those bullets in your magazine. So use this to your advantage to pump out more DPS. Make sure you're at the bottom of your magazine when you activate your anomaly rounds skill. Using a restock box will also reload your magazine. However, note that if you do have anomaly round skill active at the time, it will get rid of that skill. So you can use it to refill your mag without having to reload, but just know that if you have that skill on, it will take it away. The next tip is going to be for co-op only. While you're in co-op and you see your co-op partners' names in the top right corner there, you can see their health and their class and all that good stuff. You can also see a speech bubble pop up if they are in their menu or talking to an NPC or something. And then you'll also see a bunch of Z's pop up in a speech bubble to know that they're idle as well. All right, on to class specific-ish tips. All right, number one for Techno, you can shoot your mines to blow them up. So normally you would throw them and they would sit there, and if an enemy walks by, it'll blow it up. If not, then it just sits there. However, you can shoot it to blow it up. You can throw it out, shoot it to blow it up if you want to, or you just wait for the enemies to walk by. Here is my tip for Trickster. If your shield is active from one of the many perks or from kills, etc., you will not burn in fire until that shield wears out. So you don't have to worry about getting set ablaze while your shield is full. Next, for Pyromancer, you can hold and let go the thermal bomb button to select an enemy to more specifically target which enemy you'd like to hit the thermal bomb with. This also works with skills like Trickster's Hunt the Prey. So if you want to be more specific in who you're targeting with the skill, you can use that. And then for Devastator and also Trickster, again, you'll notice that when you're fighting enemies, a mark icon is going to show up on the enemy's health bar. This means that if you kill this enemy at this range, you are going to be receiving health. So because Trickster and Devastator receive health and shields from killing close range enemies, that mark will not show up unless you're in close range. And if you're in close range, that means that you'll receive health. All right, guys, that's it for my tips and tricks. I hope that helps you out in game. I hope this gives you a little bit of a head start, a little bit more knowledge about Outriders before you dive in on April 1st. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll be going live a lot more on YouTube, so make sure to look out for any announcements or live streams. If you enjoyed this video or if you learned something new, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.